Hello, Michael. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Martin. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. Thank you very much.
Can I just confirm we have the date right?
Yes, today we do have the date right. And it's not
Okay.
an AI agent. We don't have the script yet. So if you guys want to build the script to help us, you still can do it. No, no, no. Today I've thought about it and I've changed it manually. Yes.
Can we do another manual check? You know what the next thing is we have to check, yeah?
Yeah,
Hey, Jan,
tell
how
me.
are you? You know we have to check the next
Hello,
thing.
Peter. Tell me.
That is the so it's the live SpaceX price. Don't look.
Yes. Mhm.
Don't look. Do you know where it is? Did you
Tell me.
check?
The SpaceX price? I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me, tell me.
It traded the low today is 122.12.
It went to 122 SpaceX.
Yeah, it's 124.04 right now.
Oh, wow. Whoa, 122. So we were at 135, 36, 34 yesterday at the same time, right?
It's down almost 6%. It's down 7 points today. It
Today,
closed at like 130 or something yesterday.
wow. Okay, okay,
It
okay, okay.
opened at
And plus,
127. But here's the point, and this is relevant. Like I know it sounds like a little bit of a joke. It's going to be relevant for a whole bunch of things we're talking about today. Or a
okay.
whole bunch of things we always talk about. But the point here is that this thing spiked up to over 200. It IPO'd at 135, which was a joke at 1.5 trillion dollars. And what did we say it was going to do? We said it would spike on the open.
Mhm.
It may trade above the IPO price, but it was just going to drift and drift and drift. And just look at the 1 month chart, Martin.
Yeah, it's a disaster, right? So let
And
me
this
open
is
this.
not intelligence. This is just like historically, this is just what happens to a very high profile IPO like this.
Okay. Especially
This
that
is
is
what happens.
especially
Go
that
ahead.
is completely overpriced, right? Like without any fundamental that are like correct. Okay, well, minus 5% today. 1 month chart, minus 35% since the high around 200.
Right.
So what you said was if we break 135, then it's gonna be really, really low. Like we're gonna go super low. And I think it closed at 131 last night and it
Yeah.
opened at 124 today.
127 I see as the open, but it depends which
Okay.
market you're looking at and
Yeah.
like which open you're considering because markets trade more often now than they used to.
Yes, you're right, you're right, you're right,
Either
right.
way, this could be a nightmare because think about everybody that bought the stock above 135.
Yeah, or even at the IPO price, like everybody. And plus, there is no way this is going back up. Like no way, right? Like it
Based on
can't.
based on what fundamentals, but also based on
Yeah,
based on what the industry itself is doing and all the sort of shenanigery and all the thing that's happening. What happened with Thinking Machine Labs that we talked about yesterday. We'll get to some other stuff today. Actually, before we do that, we should just welcome everybody to the show. So
yeah.
thanks for joining us, everybody, today. Welcome back to AGTP. You know, we talk about the most important tech stories in the United States. Today's Friday, the 17th of July, 2026. As always, there's a lot going on. I wanted to start with the SpaceX stuff. Again, not because this is an investment show, but because it's indicative of what's happening in the larger AI industry, but also in the valuations of these companies. And you can have a situation, Martin, where high profile companies see their valuations get cut drastically, but it doesn't mean that it's bad for the industry or the vertical as a whole. It just
Yes,
means that
yes,
the
yes.
valuation, do you understand what I mean? So it just means that the
Mhm.
valuations are wrong,
Yes.
or early or way too early, right? So, and both of those things can be true at the same time. For
Mhm.
SpaceX, like the only money that SpaceX makes is on Starlink,
Yes, yes.
right? So their XAI business and even, well, Cursor, again, is not profitable, but like none of their AI businesses make any money, nor are they any of the leading providers from based on usage, not based on
Mhm.
how good their models are. Because at some level, and again, Thinking Machines Lab proved this to us yesterday. Like the model doesn't have to be the best to be the most used.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Anyway, that's why I bring this up. It's not to be funny or joke about it, but just to explain. Because here's the thing, and here's one of the reasons why we talked about this on the IPO day and the day after. It's not to make fun of SpaceX. It's to give information to people that are watching this show so that they can understand that this is not an anomaly
Mhm.
and that you have to watch this thing. Because if all you did was watch on day one, you would have seen 135 and like a 190 close. And you would have thought, oh, shucks, I missed out.
Mhm.
But a lot of the people, remember, a lot of people that owned the stock before the IPO have a lockup. They have a 6-month lockup normally, yeah? So what are they doing today?
They try.
Because, well, they can't do anything. Now, they
Yeah,
can
they can
buy
do
they can
anything.
buy options, right? But how expensive do you think it would be to buy a put option above the IPO price?
Right
Based
now?
on the fact, no, well, right now, obviously, it would be impossible because no one's going to sell you
Mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm.
I mean, there is a price for it, but it's very expensive because it has to take into consideration where the existing price is, right? Because if you just sell somebody a put above the market, they'll just execute it. They'll exercise it right away, unless it's insanely expensive.
Yes.
But again, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this is indicative of the way the IPO markets work for companies that don't have any earnings, that are forced into an index. Like everything that was going on around SpaceX was bad, and this is the result. And we're not done yet. And the other reason too, Martin, is I want people to pay attention again because it's so high profile, not just from a name, not just because it's Elon Musk, and not just because it's AI, but because it's all of those things combined. And he got special treatment to be put into I think it was the NASDAQ 100 index. But regardless of any of that, if you had just watched on day one or day two, you would have thought another successful IPO and I didn't participate. But if you just keep watching, this is why you have to watch for more than a minute and have to have a
Yes, yes, yes,
slightly
yes.
longer term. I can't think of the word in English right now, but a longer lifespan of your thought process around this thing. Because again, if you just pay attention on day one or day two, you're going to miss the forest for the trees. And what's happening now is that the market is telling you at least a month out, I hate this company.
This is so then we didn't plan to talk about SpaceX, but then why did they just do the IPO? Then how come they managed to secure the IPO at 135? How come they found enough people to be ready to buy it, even though less than a month after we are already below IPO price and people already hate it?
So you're presuming that investment bankers are telling the truth.
Okay. Okay.
And they have a vested interest of rushing this, right? Because they know what the rest of the industry is going to do. Think about how
Okay.
much information. And again, I don't know who is leading the syndicate on this. Let me just see.
While you search, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Peter. I got the date right today. Yes,
without a
without the script, without the agent. So yeah, thank you,
Okay, so this is a little embarrassing, Martin. Guess who led the
John Van Sars
and
and Morgan Stanley.
Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley led the record-breaking underwriting syndicate for SpaceX. Goldman secured the most senior lead position on the prospectus, while Morgan Stanley served as a joint book runner and was the sole stabilization agent. So, pardon me twice, since I worked at Goldman Sachs and at Morgan Stanley for most of my career.
If you were still working there, would you have participated in this type of IPO?
If I was at Goldman Sachs, I would not, because it's a US-based IPO, and I was based
Okay.
in Japan for most of my career.
Okay.
But my colleagues in the United States would have, because they would have sat on a portfolio trading desk, and they would have, some of their clients would have been potential clients for the IPO,
Okay.
right? Like Blackstone and BGI and State Street and all these big fund managers. But remember, they have to participate at some level. They have to buy in that window period of time when it goes into the index. Remember, because if they're index investors, and some of them provide index investment vehicles to their clients, they have to own the stock, because first of all, the valuation's high, and its impact on the index could be high as well. So they cannot run an index fund that invests in that particular index and not own this stock.
Yes. Did they get into the index yet?
Wasn't it like the first 7 days was the price of the average price, or no, that was the price at Cursor?
For Cursor, yeah. For Cursor, yes. Maybe I just have a look at if they got into the index yet, and if not, when is that? If it's still the plan.
So SpaceX was officially added to the NASDAQ 100 on July 7th.
Okay. So which means that the bump of the index is basically gone. Like the
Yeah, and the
potential.
Russell 1000, 3000 will be added during the September to December rebalance periods. And the S&P 500 inclusion will not occur until at least mid-2027, because the S&P rejected a fast-track proposal maintaining their standard 12-month seasoning and profitability rules. So they were at least had some kind of integrity.
Yeah, what did the Nasdaq do here? It's really weird, right? It's really weird.
Say it again.
But anyway, yeah, why did the Nasdaq just basically forgot all of their rules, right? That was the first time that they bypass all the rules and they just said, you know what, let's just get you in the
Excuse me.
Nasdaq. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and the Nasdaq 100 is not a small index. This triggered massive buying from funds that track the index, such as the QQQ Trust, right? The QQQ
Yes.
is the Nasdaq index.
I have
The
some
triple Qs, yeah.
it,
I know you do.
ETF on QQQ. So actually, that's in a way it's good because it's doing done right now. So we get
Buy more.
yeah, exactly. But I actually let's not talk too much about the stock
Yeah,
market.
sorry.
I don't want us to be like an investment show. I don't want people to follow what we do and then come back to us in 6 months and then say, look, guys, we lost money on that, right? So
Yeah, that's not the point. But what is I want? But the
Yeah.
reason why, and let's get to Moonshot, because I want to talk about two things today. Moonshot AI launches Kimi K3, which I think is super important. Also, Elorian raises $55 million for visual AI. Both of these things are important. Everybody's talking about them. But the reason why I wanted to mention it again was not to give people investment advice, but to tell them that when there is a high-profile IPO, pay attention to it for more than a minute. Right? Have a longer lifespan for this thing, because what happens the day after, the month after, and the weeks after is more important than what happens on the day, because all the newspaper is going to report is it spiked up 40% on the IPO. Okay, but how about today? Where's the news on it today? You don't hear about it at all. And now it's
Yes.
below the IPO price, and it's down, what, 35% in the last month.
Yes, that's a really good point of you have to be careful about the headlines, about the mainstream media, what they say, and how at the end of the day they manipulate the masses, right? Like there is so many example of that, right? Like where they have a very short attention span, and they just say, "Wow, SpaceX is valued at 1.7 trillion, and they're not even profitable." They
Elon Musk is
expect
a genius. Everything he touches turns
exactly
to gold and all the crap, right?
like they have a target market of $28 trillion, like all of this big thing, right? And then when we dug deeper a little bit into the number, like $28 trillion market was making absolutely no sense, right?
No.
Like it was absolutely crazy, and they have no revenue. And now you see actually the real story behind the headlines of last month, basically, right?
Martin, you know that Procter & Gamble spends anywhere between 10 and $12 billion a year on marketing. So if the Asia Tech podcast can get 1% or 2% of their marketing spend, it's like a $200 million a year business just for ATP, potentially.
Exactly.
And if we trade on 5 times earnings, which is standard for a media company or whatever, then ATP is worth $1 billion, the market cap. Would be the same conversation.
Makes sense, right? Makes complete sense.
Anyway.
No, but that's true. There's so many weird stuff happening. And that's why right now I think there's these 3 forces that are happening right now in the world of AI. Actually, it was always the case. There's maybe more forces, but it looks really obvious right now that there's 3 different forces. The first one is the product itself. You got to have a good product, you need to have users. The second one is the business side of things. What are you doing with your offering? What are you doing with your discount, with your product launch, with all your marketing? And then the third one is the financial thing, right? Why did Anthropic raise money at a $965 billion valuation just because they wanted a quick return for their investors, right?
For their investors, not to build better products, not to do anything else. But once you're raising at that level, it's not for the company. It's for the investors that are giving money to the company. And hurry up and do an IPO so that we can make our money.
Exactly. And that's because that happened basically 3 months before they say, hey, we are feeding for IPO, right? So that's why there's these 3 forces right now: the product, the business, and the finance, that seems so obvious. We can see where everybody is trying to get
but Martin,
their thing.
Please don't take this the wrong way. It's obvious to you now.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about it for months. So it feels normal to you.
Yeah.
But again, let's get back to your mom, right? And again, nothing. I love your mom. It's like, but she has no idea.
No, it's true.
And but your mother's educated. She's smart. She's a business. Do you know what I mean? It's not like she's silly. She's very smart. She's globally, thinking, and also she runs her own business. So she's paying attention, but not paying attention to this type of thing. And that's why they can do this kind of crap, because regular people don't understand what's happening and aren't paying attention.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a good point. And And yeah, and I think something to keep in mind, and like for people who are watching us every day, thank you very much again for that. I hope that you see this thing. I hope that you see these three forces that are really different and
Mm.
all have their own agenda. Basically, right? Like that's why I really wanted to mention this, because it really feels like everybody have its own agenda, and it's not necessarily going in the right direction. Sorry,
No,
it's not necessarily going in the same direction, right? Like
no,
the
it's not.
product
It's not. It's
people,
not.
and I think Anthropic is really a good example for that, right? Like the product people, they just want us to have a great model, a great cloud. The business people, they want to scare us and they want to say AI it's too
Too
dangerous
dangerous. Yeah.
and blah blah blah. And the finance people, the investors, they want a quick return just before the IPO. Everybody has different goals, right? It's so weird. And at the end of the day, it just creates this very weird market moment where it's not only about the product, it's not only about the capabilities, it's also about all of these things
Well, the
around
incentives
it.
are also misaligned, Martin, right?
Yes,
Because
yes, yes, yes.
the people inside of Anthropic that actually, and we'll get to the stories in a second, but the people inside of Anthropic that actually own some stock,
Mhm.
they want the IPO at $1.5 trillion, right? Because that's
Yes.
how they're fundamentally going to change the future of their own families, by making a ton of money.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And they're not as wrapped up in the ethical conundrum around, like, is it the right price? And to be fair, they may not even know. Like,
Yes.
do you think a typical employee at SpaceX who holds stock in the company understands the listing requirements for NASDAQ?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
They have no idea.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. There is so many things going on, right? Like at the same time, it's not only just you have a good product and you win. It's so much more complex than that. And yeah, and it looks very, very obvious to me right now. Like, but you're right. Like, after a couple of months that we talked about it, that we looked at all of these things, included SpaceX, included Anthropic. Yeah, I think we are learning a lot about what's going on behind the scene, right? And that's not only the product itself.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about Moonshot.
Let's do that, because that's another that's another
Not
threat.
unrelated. So let me go through some
No,
of this, yeah, as
yep,
usual.
yep,
So in my mind, I was thinking about this when I was writing stuff down today, but like the pressure has to be mounting on Anthropic, on OpenAI, on Google, on XAI, and even Meta to go open weight. It has to be mounting on them to do it. Right. And I use the company name just because it's easier there, and because Moonshot is the company name, while Kimi 3 is the model name. Yeah.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And yesterday, remember, Martin, we discussed Thinking Machine Labs Inkling model and Tinker as well. And today
Yes.
we get Moonshot AI's Kimi K3. So like OpenAI, sorry, I'm just looking at the list here. Anthropic and at least Grok or XAI must be sitting there thinking, like, we have to go open weight.
Mhm, mhm,
And then
mhm.
Kimi comes out and they haven't gone open weight yet, but they're meant to go open on July 27th. That's when they've
Okay.
scheduled this thing to go out. But they've announced that they will. And there's no reason to believe that they won't. But let's give some information here. Moonshot AI's Kimi K3 is a 2.8 trillion parameter multimodal model designed for sustained coding,
Okay.
reasoning, and professional knowledge work. So like all this stuff that you would care about, yeah?
Mhm, mhm,
It has
mhm.
a 1 million token context window and uses a highly sparse MOE, mixture of experts architecture. So only 16 of its 896 experts are activated during each processing step, which means that it's very efficient.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? So you can have a 2.8 trillion parameter model, but you're only using a small subset of it when you're actually
Yes.
processing. So it's much cheaper to use. And I think people actually need to know like what a parameter is.
Yes. Go ahead.
Do you know what a parameter is?
If you can just explain to us, and maybe also just after that, let's talk about the mixture of experts, just to make sure that everybody has all the information.
Yeah, so I wanted to go through this. So a
Mhm.
parameter is it's really interesting actually when you dig deeper into this. Right? Because I was like, how many, because to me, like a parameter is like in the real world, I could give you like a situation where there are 5 parameters, right? And you have to kind of
Mhm.
balance them against each other. But in the term of an LLM, a parameter is a learned numerical value inside of a model. Okay.
Okay.
And during training, the model adjusts billions of these numbers so that given any sequence of words or tokens, it becomes better at predicting what comes next. So a parameter doesn't necessarily represent any sort of human readable fact. it's distributed across many different parameters, right? So like a sentence like Paris is the capital of France is not one parameter. It could be 12. And individual parameters contribute tiny parts of broader patterns involving language, facts, reasoning, style, and context, and they all have a mathematical notation associated with them. And what they really do is they sit inside these gigantic matrices that transform one set of numbers into another set of numbers to create a predictive mechanism, Martin, that then figures out what should mathematically come next here. And that's why when you see a lot of the writing that LLMs do, it all sounds exactly the same because they're using the same parameters to come up with it. What normally follows this thing is that thing. And that's why you have to tell it, don't write like that. Write like this instead, because that's the way real writing gets done. Anyway, the more parameters they are, the more granular it can get, but also the more context it can have as well. And that's why they also say here, it's a 2.8 million parameter model, and there's a 1 million token context window. That's just like what the thing can remember.
Yeah, 2.8 trillion. You say 2.8 million.
Yeah, sorry,
2.8 trillion.
Trillion parameters. And you know that's what a parameter is, because to me, like a parameter is like a rule. Like if I said, okay, what are the parameters from what we can do next week when we go on our trip to Boston? It would be like, okay, you can't go here, don't ride the subway. Like these are, you know what I mean? But that's not what this means. And I think it's important for people to understand what that is. And an MOE model, okay, says that the full model, let's say, can contain 1 trillion parameters, let's say, but only 50 billion may be activated for any particular token, because there's an assignment given to each one of these parameters that says like this is associated with this thing, and that's considered to be an expert. And then you mix those experts, then you mix those tokens up for things that are relevant and ignore the rest of the tokens. Like you were talking about this yesterday. Like if you're talking about something in German, you don't need any of the things that are associated with Spanish or Portuguese or, you know, whatever. So you don't use them at all, right? Or if you're talking about like Monet, you don't need anything that has to do with science and math per se. So you don't have to use any of those parameters. And that's what MOE is. It says, let's just make this, we have all these potential things we can use, all these potential parameters, all these mathematical things we can use, but we don't need most of them. Let's just use the ones we need. And we can mix and match some of them because they're related to each other, but we don't need all of them. And that's important.
And then in the mixture of expert model, basically there is a routine layer that just say, okay, when people ask a question, it's going to direct the question to this expert or that expert, or this mixture of experts, this group of experts, basically to be able to answer the question. So instead of using all the experts, all the parameters that we have in the model, we just use a small subset of them, thanks to the routing layer that is actually saying, hey, we are going to use that one. That's what the lady at Cerebras explained to us, right?
But the other thing that's really important is, it's not like the categories for the expertise are manually assigned before things happen. They're determined during training.
Yes.
Right. So it's like some dude is like, well, that's French. Like, that's related to French stuff. It's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the reason why I wanted to mention all of this, because like all of this routing and expert activation and all of that actually make a big difference in how you design the chip. Right, like it's like the way you design the chip, the way you build the chip, like the lady at Cerebras was explaining to us, like they were putting some components next to each other to minimize the distance, to minimize the latency, and then they had like this thing and that thing for like so many different criterias, right? Because they wanted to get some components next to each other, some components bigger than other, some components small, because now you have a small group of experts that are running instead of the entire model. So that's why like this is directly linked to actually how we're gonna, like what type of chips are required to run these models. So when we're talking MOE, mixture of experts, we are talking a very specific set of chips where can actually run this type of
Uh,
inference on the model.
efficiently,
Yes,
efficiently.
yes,
Right,
efficiently.
because like
You're right. Yep.
because
Mhm.
the chips that NVIDIA has been making so far are not great at inference, but they're useful.
Yes, 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 yes.
And Cerebrus, again, during that conversation that we had with her, was like, we're building this specifically to make sure
Mhm.
that it's as efficient as humanly possible to create the right inference based on MOE.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's
yes.
just a completely different animal
Yes, 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 yes. And so that's why like this, like the chip and the model working
together.
work together, and so that's why it's very important to know like how the model works, like if it's an MOE, if it's not an MOE, like all of these things actually help us understand like what type of chip, what type of infrastructure are going to be required to run them.
Yeah, and look, that's why I forget the name of the company we were talking about yesterday, but they were doing 3D stacking. Again, it's just the way that their chips are being built. Remember, we talked about that was the Dongfeng, the DFSX chip maker. So this was on ATP, and the point that they were making was, yeah, they put all these particular components closer to each other because it's a 14 nanometer process, not a 2 nanometer process. So the way that they had to optimize for better inference was by putting some of those components, as you were talking about a moment ago, closer to each other so that the latency was lower and the speed was faster and the inference was better.
This must be so insane, Major, to design these chips. Like you,
But Mark,
you
just
they must be
remember, we talked about it
battling.
yesterday. The 2 nanometer process
Yeah.
has literally billions of transistors on it.
Oh.
How do you design that? You can't see it.
Exactly, like 2 nanometers. Like how many centimeters is that? Two in centimeters. It's like it's 0.60 and then 1 centimeter. it's it's power minus 7.
7. Yeah, I was gonna say it's power minus
Yes.
7.
So they seed 0 after the comma.
Before.
That it's okay, yeah. I mean it's
So when you say comma, just
0.0000.
be careful about this, Martin. When you
Okay.
say comma, that's European notation.
Oh yeah, true.
It would be a decimal point in American
Okay.
notation. But
Okay,
yeah,
you're
fair
right.
enough. But I understand what you mean. Yeah.
You're right. So 1 nanometer is like one.
Is one millionth of a
Yes, 1
centimeter.
million. Yeah, yeah. It's like 0.0006 times 1 centimeters. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's
Is it
really
1
tiny.
million or is it 10 million? 1, 2, 3. It's 1/10 millionth of a centimeter.
1/10 millionth.
Yeah.
So you need 10 million for this chip to make 1 centimeter. So just put 1 centimeter on your desk, and then you can put 10 million of this chip into this distance.
Well, in this case, it's a 2 nanometer process, so it's 5 million. But okay.
5 million. Okay.
Now you're just nitpicking.
You're nitpicking, Michael. So yeah, so this is really tiny, and this is what TSMC is able to do, right? Like, and they are pretty much the only one in the world to be able to do
Across
that.
the board. I also believe that the chips that they're making for Apple are going to be part of a 2 nanometer process. Anyway, let's talk about Kimi because there's more to talk about here. So, because there's a bunch of things going on all at once. K3 appears to place China's leading open weight models within the frontier performance range.
Yes.
So it means, like, yeah, if you look at the stats, like, again, it's not necessarily as good on every metric as the frontier models, but it's in the neighborhood. And it was originally, I think it was, where am I here? It was at the top of the front end code arena, ranked number 1, above Fable 5, above 5.6, above GLM 5.2, and above 4.8, 4.5, and stuff like that. Yeah. So ranked number 1, and by a pretty decent margin, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the chart.
This one.
Yeah.
This one. So yeah, this is actually, I mean, we always get to be careful about the benchmark, right? Like, it's not something that I've tested. It's not something that I can tell you, okay, I've tested that and do all of my workflows and Kimi K3 works much better, right? That's not the case. Okay, it's just like standard benchmark that I think have been used since a couple of years, right? Like, I don't know how much they have changed, but at least we measure these models consistently, like every time there is a new one, right? So even if we don't agree with all the rules, maybe, because I have no idea how they are built, but at least that's the same rules for everyone. Okay,
Right.
so and plus it's been consistent across the years, so that's still give us an idea, I think, about what is happening. And even though it's not maybe the top of the top, but that it's always better than Opus, for example. Opus 4.8, the latest version. It's
Yep.
better than Fable on a few of them.
It's
Yeah,
better than Fable on coding, apparently.
it's so on coding. It depends on which benchmark.
Yeah, fair enough.
So but they are it is in the neighborhood of Fable. It's either just behind or slightly above. It's also it's same situation for GPT 5.6 Sol, so the stronger version of GPT 5.6. Yeah, no, it's apparently, like, once again, I didn't test it. I can't tell you what it is, like how it performs, but according to the benchmark, according to what people say, it looks like Chinese models have achieved frontier intelligence. Yes.
Yeah, and again, as I said at the beginning of this, the pressure has to be mounting because you can have an open weight model
Mhm.
that is ranked, 15th in coding, and no one's really going to care, right? Because they'll just point and be like, well, it's open weight, but you can't build an open weight model because they're not spending enough money on training and they're not using the right chips and blah, blah, and the inference isn't going to be as good and all this other kind of noise, right? But the point of this is like, it's open weight. It will be, sorry, on the 27th. Let's be clear about this, yeah? Um, but it's just as powerful or in the same neighborhood from a power and a competence perspective as all of your frontier models. And that's actually really important. And you're right, Martin. No individual one of the benchmarks on its own matters, but because at least it's a standard measurement for all this, like it's not like you're measuring one against one thing and one against another thing. It's not apples and oranges here.
Exactly.
And whether these measurements are valid or not, in a way, like who cares? But you have to believe. Like, I don't believe, and I don't know this, but I can't believe that Front Code Arena AI was built by like some dude you know, in Shanghai.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
You know what I
They
mean?
must have like some decent reasoning behind that for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
yep.
so,
Go
so
ahead.
just let me finish this thought at least. So, to me, the one of the main takeaways here is that there is this big sort of structural change taking place in the AI market, and this idea that some of these Chinese labs, and there are more coming, right? That they're releasing these increasingly my English is not great tonight, capable models, right? On much faster cycles. So they're coming out like, again, I forget the model that the Gemini stuff that Google still has not released their most recent model. And that um because they're so powerful and at the same time so cheap, right? It's a problem for the frontier models in the US. Like there was this idea that the US platforms were just going to win because they were so far ahead.
Mhm, mhm,
And again,
mhm.
I don't have a horse in this race, right? Because to me, like the best thing would be just have more competition, better technology.
Yes. At the end of the day,
I
that's
think,
that's that's always better to have more competition for the user.
yeah, I think so. And the great thing is that like it has what's the right word here? It has triggered like the standard response in the United States from
Which
the
is
typical Dunning-Kruger crowd. Do you know what Dunning-Kruger means, Martin?
no, tell me.
Okay, because you should know this because the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a cognitive bias
Okay.
where people with like expertise in one place where they've done really well in one thing have limited knowledge in other things, but they feel like I was really smart over there, so I must be smart everywhere.
Mm.
And they can't understand their own either incompetence or lack of knowledge, so that they apply like this intelligence that they feel like they have or the experience that they feel like they have in one domain. You know what I mean? It's like a doctor who's like the greatest heart surgeon in the world telling you he also knows about like how to throw the best fastball.
Mhm, mhm.
Like
And
those two
and
things are not related.
and sometimes it's much more subtle than that, right? Like for example, a surgeon who is super good at end surgery, let's say, right, will all
Yeah.
of a sudden give you tips for your liver, or
Yeah, yeah,
or
same.
how to eat well, right? Like, so it's
Yeah,
kinda still the same idea, where you think like, okay, he's a doctor, so he knows about health and stuff like that, but no, he's a surgeon. Let's be precise, right? He has no experience, no training when it comes to overall health, or liver stuff, and things like this. So sometimes it's a little bit more subtle, but I think, Michael, that the best group of people who has this syndrome are the investors, right? Like, every time you have an investor,
it's funny you say that because
yeah.
David Sachs is my favorite example of this
Okay.
Dunning-Kruger thing. He posted on Twitter today. For the first time, a Chinese model, Kimi 3, has taken #1 in the front-end code arena and is scoring at or near the frontier on other benchmarks. Meanwhile, and he's tying these things together, America, by the way, David Sachs, born in South Africa,
Hmm.
he's an immigrant to the United States, just so you know. Meanwhile, America is tying itself in knots. Politicians and bureaucrats are banning new data centers, not true, piling on state regulations, not true, and pushing for new federal agencies to pre-approve frontier models. So, so the government that he supports is doing that. But not to get into the politics of it, but like this is this typical. There's a word for this type of person as well. Um, in Yiddish, you know what Yiddish is? It's like a combination of a bunch of European languages, like all smushed together. And he's a kvetch,
Okay.
which just
Okay.
means just like an inveterate complaining idiot. Anyway, but the point is that like a lot of people are going to look at this and think like this is why what's happening at K3 is so important, right? Because it's triggering all these different thoughts in people's heads, and these models are getting super powerful because it looked like OpenAI and Anthropic, and at some level, some of these other frontier models in the US were going to dominate almost by definition. They're now getting really scared because these Chinese models that are on less powerful technology are still coming up with the same scores on the benchmarks. And it's starting to freak people out, I think.
And to Jan's point, in the comment, I still think it's possible, that they
I don't
somehow
disagree with I don't disagree
find
with
this, yeah, find a solution to contain, right? Like, to contain the marketplace, to make sure that they don't get too much market share, they don't get too much embedded into companies and into workflows. Yeah, no, I think that may be why right now we hear way more about distillation, right? Like this, like the fact that the Chinese models have been distillating, right? The frontier model. So we've talked about that a couple of days ago, but just to remind everybody, it's basically like they create millions of accounts, right, on Anthropic and on OpenAI, and they just all day long send queries to basically try to reverse engineer what the model do, and that's how they build their models. I say they because there's a lot of Chinese labs who are doing that, and that may explain how they can get so they can catch up so fast on the frontier intelligence of
right.
the US labs, right? And we are not talking about distillation that much a couple of months ago, but now
No.
that the Chinese are actually catching up, it's a lot more people are talking about it. I think it may be because they look for a reason, right? That they look for a reason to find the solution, right? Because obviously distillation is not good, that it's morally not good, but in practice they just use your model a lot, like really a lot, right? Like
Yeah,
there is no
yeah.
law that says, hey, you cannot use our product a lot because they pay for it, right? And so this is why it gets really, really tricky. It's like it's a new area that doesn't have any law against this yet, maybe, right?
Yeah,
And
but just
so
but just imagine a situation where like the World Cup was managed the same way that frontier models and access to open weight models was managed. You know what I mean? And the US was like, okay, fine, we're happy to play Bosnia Herzegovina, but we can't play Belgium because they're just too dangerous.
yeah, just a danger. And then all of these set of teams just cannot cannot play.
Sorry, you
That's
can't
it.
play.
Just don't play.
France is not allowed in the World Cup. Too dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, the Argentinians, they can play, but they can't have Messi on their team. Too dangerous. I'm joking a little bit, but I'm trying to make a point that it's like,
Yeah.
do you want to compete or do you not want to compete?
Mm.
Um,
But
sorry.
but yeah, right now it's very competitive, right? Like how many frontier model we got released in the last 2 weeks? Like so many, right? Meta, Grok, Anthropic, OpenAI, Kimi now.
Right.
So that's like a lot
And
of models.
DeepSeek just raised or announced that we're going to
Yeah,
raise another 7 point something billion at
yeah.
a valuation that was 40% higher than their previous valuation.
Yep. And so
Right.
I think that something to observe as well is that the pace of release, the pace of improvement is definitely accelerating. It's getting faster and faster and faster. Like we get
Yeah. Yeah.
we get Opus 4.6 just 3 weeks after GPT 4.7, and then a couple of weeks after Opus 4.8. Then we got Fable. Now we get like in the GPT 5 point something family, same. They released
5.6. Yeah.
each version super fast, one after the other. So yeah, I think to me that we are seeing a moment right now where everything is accelerating, everything is getting better and better and better really fast. To be honest, I really wonder why. I really wonder like
Why what?
why they are releasing so much new things so fast, because I don't feel the market really is waiting for a new model. Like I don't like cost is one big factor. That's true. Like and that's what I wanted to share the price on Kimi. That's the first one that is not that cheap. Like Kimi 2.6. So the version just before K3. Okay, Kimi K 2.6 had an input cost at
Hmm.
$0.95 per 1 million token and output of $4 for 1 million token. Okay,
Okay,
so
that's middle of the road. It's not that cheap. It's cheap, but it's not that cheap.
yep, it's so that's below Grok, Meta, that's around IQ price. So that's like Anthropic IQ, so around like the entry level at Anthropic
Right.
and OpenAI. Okay, and
Yep.
so that's why that was Kimi K 2.6. Then the next version that they released, the K 2.7 code, so a model more focused on coding itself, same
Mhm.
price. Okay. This one, K3, the latest, has a cost of $3 per 1 million token, so a little bit more than 3 times the price,
Yeah.
and an output of $15 per 1 million
So
token.
almost 4 times, well, 3 point something times the price. Yeah. Let's
Yep.
not get crazy.
And so Opus is at 25, Sony is around 15. Um, and yeah, as you said, Jan, so okay, so thank you for the correction,
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
million per output token. So now at $15 per 1 million output, yeah, they are not on the cheap side anymore. They are in the mid range now. Now they are in the mid range. Now they are models that are cheaper than them, and actually a bunch of them. So they are not yet at the level of Opus at 25, Fable at 50, GPT 5.5 around these prices as well, I think, but
Mhm.
not cheaper than Opus. So now K3 is like in the mid tier. So that's why I really wonder like what is the strategy here? So that's still providing something cheaper than Fable, for example. You can use
Right.
Kimi K3 cheaper than Fable. So maybe that's the right idea here. Like it could be because the market is ready to pay. So let's just make them pay basically. Right?
Right.
If people are okay to pay 25, 50 dollars for Opus, then why would I go to 5 or 6 or 7? And let's try 50 and let's try to make as much money as we can while we can, basically.
Yeah.
It could be a moment like this, like a weird pricing moment like this. Like I had this feeling when OpenAI released, I think, GPT 5.5 just after Opus 4.6, if my memory serves me right, where
4.8.
no, I think 4.6. It was at the
4.6. Yeah. Sorry.
4.6
I'm sorry. Yeah. No,
moment
you're right. I was thinking
where
5.6. You said 5.5. So my bad.
yes. And then
You're right.
they just released it at the exact same price as Opus. Like Opus was like one step above the rest of the pack. They were just like a little bit more expensive than everybody. And then OpenAI just after release the model at the exact same price, right? And so from that moment on, I was like, it looks like they are just trying to see where like there's no real fundamentals behind the pricing. It's more
Mhm.
like let's see how much the customer is really like ready to pay, right? And like and how much we can sell this thing. And same for Fable, like what justify to be twice more expensive than Opus? I don't think there is any rationale behind that. It's not twice more helpful. So I think it's just like a matter of like, okay, let's just try to charge
But it was
people as much
probably
as we
way
can.
more expensive to train, right?
Yeah, that's all the thing that we don't really know, right?
Yeah,
Like
because that was
how.
the other
Mm,
thing about K3 that we didn't mention is it's the largest open weight model in the world
Yep.
with 2.8 trillion parameters.
Yes.
So Martin, you asked a question and I wanted to kind of jump in and give what I think part of the answer is. And I'm happy to be wrong, right? And you know, again, for everyone, for all the people that are watching and stuff, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I'm not always right. Why, you said, why would they release like one new model after another when the market doesn't seem to be asking for it?
Mhm.
The answer is the IPO, right? At least partially.
Okay.
Because you have to have, it's the same thing. Like, why did Ford introduce the Mustang back in the
Okay.
50s?
Okay.
Because they needed to have something that said, like, we can build super fast, super efficient race cars just like the Europeans, because that's how we get gravitas.
Mm.
It didn't do anything. And maybe some of the engineering that they learned from building that sort of filtered down into like the regular Ford cars, but maybe not. But the idea was that that built a halo around the company. Like, well, they have the Mustang, so they must be able to build great cars. And it's the same thing here. They're like 5.6, way more powerful than 5.5. Fable 5, too dangerous to put out. But also they know they're competing with each other, right? So who's going to IPO first? Who's going to put out the fastest, the best, the biggest model is going to be defining for who has the best IPO. And because there's so much pressure, you can just see the bankers coming in and the investors coming in. 5.6 not done yet. Release it anyway because this is going to be bigger, better, you know, stronger, faster than Fable 5. Because we've already tested it and we know what it looks like in the benchmarks. It's at least as good, if not better. It's all related to the money that people want to make from the investors into the IPO. They have to have the best thing. It has to be shinier on one side of this equation or the other, right?
It's so funny because
That's partially why.
it's so funny because 2 months ago it was the case, right? Like 2 months
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
Anthropic and OpenAI were at the frontier. They were like, the best in the world. There was no discussion about that at all. And since
No.
2 months, everything changed, right? Like, and everything accelerated. It started with the SpaceX IPO, and then we got all of this news, all of these new models, GLM 5.2, Kimi K3 now, thinking machine labs, like so many stuff. Apple saying we are going to do AI on device. Everything accelerated in June. I think June was the nightmare month for both Anthropic and OpenAI, and now it's just get worse and worse and worse, right? And so I think they really completely missed the IPO window. I think Michael, you're right. I think it's very highly likely, right? Like they are
Yeah,
just like right now the discussion. 2 months ago it was Anthropic and OpenAI. I need to use them. They are the frontier. They are the best. I absolutely need to deploy them into my company. Today, everybody want to try something else. Everybody want to try GLM 5.2. People want to try Kimi K3. I want to try Tinker and Inkling, right? Like right now, I'm way more excited when thinking machine lab say, hey, look, you're gonna put your data into the model and it's gonna be completely customized to you. I'm like, whoa, that's an interesting idea. Or I want to try Grok, or I want to try Meta because they are like a fifth of the price compared to what we are paying right now. So what that does is mean I can either spend a fifth of what I spend, or can I use 5 times more and do even more stuff, right? And I think like all of that, Michael, is really linked to what we said, I think a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, which is this idea of good enough. And like, and what I've always said was like, if you give me something that's good enough as Opus 4.6, it was fine. I could do a lot of stuff with that, right? Like it was okay. I don't need Fable. I don't need Mythos. Everything I want to do Opus 4.6 can do it, right? And so which means
Mm.
as soon as we get something cheaper, more efficient, blah, 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 that can do the same as Opus 4.6, I'm going to be a potential client. And I think a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing. And this is
Yeah.
from all the insight that we have from our guests, right? On the different podcasts that we run. Cost was a big factor for everybody. That's why I always said that this idea of of um of token medicine was just good for the headlines, but it died really fast. Like if there's no more token medicine since March, right? It lasted 2 weeks and then it was over. It was finished because it just makes no sense, right? Like the CFO came back from holiday. People are like, you can do the same thing with Opus 4.6. Okay, do that, but use Grok 4.5 because it's much cheaper.
But
this is
that's
what
the thing,
we are
Martin.
doing
So
right now.
even coding, right? So the biggest use for these LLMs right now is in coding. And we'll get to Elorian in a bit too, because they want to do something completely different and they want to do it differently. But I want to talk about this for a little bit longer. How much more, like how much better at coding can you possibly get from 4.8 to Fable 5?
That's
and it doesn't
exactly
justify double the cost. And I think we should change this from vibe coding to meme coding. And the meme, but the meme is this: it's like a guy sitting in front of a computer terminal with his phone, just like scrolling through, Instagram, just like while the machine is doing coding, and periodically he's looking up, going, "Yeah, that looks about right." And he's still like scrolling through Instagram. That looks about right. That's what it is. But like, how much more scrolling through Instagram can you do? While you're right, while 4.8 or Opus 4.8 is doing the coding for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and look, like I'm super happy that Jan, you have the same experience as me. Like Opus 4.6 was really good. We could do a lot of things, and I think that was the turning point. This is where everything started to shift, right? Like we wanted to use the frontier models. I would say from what? From November 2025 to March 2026, like during this 5 months period of time. Then I feel like before November 2025, everything was very different. Like everything changed when we could start doing agentic coding, right? Like when Sony 4 point something was released and was able to do some coding by itself without too much supervision. This is where OpenClaw has been able to like to get built, and then that has really triggered a whole chain of events where everybody wanted to use the latest capabilities until I think March or April. And then everybody was like, okay, I'm actually pretty much happy with what I have. Now can we optimize costs, right? And
so
now we are.
Can I say this, Mark? We talked about this already, but just to refresh people's memory. You're right. 4.6, even 4.8 was okay. It's just like Windows Vista. Nobody needed that.
Yes.
Nobody upgraded to it. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to pay for it. Because Windows XP did everything I wanted.
Yeah.
And Vista came out like 6 years later, and it was no better. It was worse, actually. And it's this, I think it's this, not the exact same thing, but it's just, again, historically, these things happen where they have to come out with a new version. It's not clear what the value prop is to the people that are using the older version, since there was nothing really wrong. Nothing really with Windows XP, the same way there was nothing really wrong with Opus 4.8. And it wasn't too dangerous to release.
And this is basically going back to our conversation about SpaceX, right? Like there is not only the product that is at stake here, right? Like there is also the IPO, there is the communication, there is the business side, there is the investors who want to make money on the IPO. And so that, you are right, that may be at the moment driving all of this weird situation that we are in, where we don't need Fable, but they get released and it's in the subscription, and then it goes in the week, but every week it stays one more week, right? It's such a weird moment in time right now where I feel there's a lot of uncertainty. I feel now it's so uncertain.
You make a really good point, Martin. Like, why does Anthropic keep extending the time that you can use this thing with a subscription? Because they're trying to buy IPO time.
Then do you know how many people are going to use Fable as soon as it goes out of a subscription?
Zero.
Nobody's gonna pay for
it. Everybody
API.
we know. Remember, Martin, we're not just presuming this. We talk to how many people do we talk to in the AI space? Not just So actually, it's the wrong way to say this. All over the world,
Yes, I mean we have
and
at
they're all
least
saying the same thing.
10 CTOs of companies who implement AI per week on our podcast. At least 10.
Yeah. And they're
At
all
least 10
saying the
of them.
same thing. It's like, there's no
Yes,
reason for us to use it because we can be as efficient as we want with 4.8. And frankly,
exactly.
we don't even need to install it.
Exactly. And also, like, I'm sure, and right now, I think I'm sure. Let's be careful because that's a big prediction, but I'm really
Let's-
close to be sure that Anthropic revenue has tanked since they last announced it.
So this is
Because
the thing it's
yes,
definitely embedded in your head. You're like,
it's
it's just crickets. So because it's crickets, it's got to be going down. It can't be going
plus
up.
right now everybody pay for the subscription. I don't see anyone sharing their massive API bill anymore. Like it was kind of
Well,
flat.
people would be like,
You remember?
I spent $100,000 last month on Opus 4.8, and and
Exactly.
here's why I'm proud of it.
And now everybody shares a screenshot because they have five subscription. Now that's what people do, right? But like 5 subscription only cost $1,000. That's nothing, right? Like we're just talking about $1,000 now worth of token. I mean, sorry, worth of like cash that you spend, but you get maybe $25,000 worth of tokens, right?
Exactly.
And now people flex with the number of subscription that they have. And so that's what people do right now. And so if you replace all the API income that Anthropic has with subscription that are 20 times less, that's why I really think like right now they have much less revenue that they had a couple of months ago. Plus the market is way more
the growth is lower for
competitive
sure.
right now. Sorry?
The growth is lower for sure.
The growth is lower for sure. The pace of growth is lower for sure. And I would even go as far as I think the income is lower. The overall.
So I don't disagree with you, but I'm saying the one thing I can almost guarantee you is that
yes,
they're not having the same month over month or year over year growth. Otherwise, they'd be screaming about it, right? They'd be yelling off from the top of the mountain about it. They're not doing that. So
and they would be using that for the IPO, right? They would be like pushing like their crazy numbers for the IPO and all of that. Actually, maybe they tried to IPO before SpaceX. Maybe they tried to IPO back in April. That was the best window for them. That was the moment where they were at the top of the hill.
when did they file?
So they filed early June, like something like around June 10, something like that. But maybe
between filing and listing has to have more time. I don't think they wanted to. Well, they may have wanted to list before SpaceX, but I don't think they could have logistically done it.
Yes. Maybe they tried to do it really, really early and they failed, at the IPO in April. And now it really looks like the window is gone. Like and from a market standpoint, like I think even people are gone, like even people right now want something different, I think. Like they want, once again, we want to try things in machine labs. We want to see how do we install Kimi K3 on our machine. Like I think this is where we are at right now from a market standpoint, right? Like we are open to different ideas, and that was not the case six months ago.
But I mean, Martin, again, this makes perfect sense, and there's historical precedent for it, right? Let's go back to two examples, right? The first is Amazon's Jeff Bezos saying, "Your margins are my opportunity," and the realistic where that played out was in the PC market. Like when IBM came out with their own PCs, they were very expensive. Their margins were super high, and Compaq came out, HP came out, Dell came out, and they were like, "These things do not have to be this expensive." And IBM then just literally got out of the business and sold their PC unit to Lenovo. Right? They just gave up. They threw their hands up in the air like, "We're out." This is the same thing that's going to happen in this business, right? Because the cost, the capex that they're spending, the amount of money that they've had to raise to properly train their models at the bleeding edge is too high when good enough is good enough. And other firms don't have to do it.
So there may be another theory that we can share, and then we can discuss and see like what everybody's opinion on that.
Yep, go ahead.
Today, I think there is no discussion about the fact that Anthropic and OpenAI are building their models themselves. They have a researcher, they are training the models, they are getting out Mythos, Fable, GPT 5.6 by themselves. Like they invest the money to get there.
Yep.
Models like Kimi, DeepSeek, ZAI, and all of that, we don't know how much of of their model comes from this distillation. So which means at the end of the day, they use Opus, right? Like they need Opus to actually happen. Like the reason why they are so efficient, the reason why they are so cheap, the reason why they are so fast may be because everything actually at the end of the day depend on using Anthropic and OpenAI, which means the real guy who are actually really creating something are the researchers at these companies. And then everybody else is pretty much building on top of them, right? And so if that's the case, at the end of the day, this is going to be a problem, right? Like because you can't at the same time use all the data from Anthropic and at the same time create a competitor for them that is going to tank either the IPO or their revenue or their capacity to respond. Because then they're gonna have a much harder time to build the next model that you need for your own training. So it looks like there's this weird potential situation here where at the end of the day we need Anthropic and OpenAI research teams because everybody is using them in some shape or form. So I don't know like how much of that is true, but if the distillation problem is a big problem,
let's say it is though, right?
Yeah.
Think about this. There was a time in Japan where deflation was a real problem.
Okay.
Why was deflation a problem? Because corporates were having problems selling goods and they kept lowering prices. So consumers figured this out and they were like, you know what? They're going to lower, even if they introduce like the most whiz-bang brand new product, at some point the price is going to go down. So I'm not going to buy it today. I'm just going to wait until the price goes down. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. So distillation itself could be a problem. But because, as you said, and as Jan said as well, you can get stuff done with 4.6 or 4.8. If I'm knowledgeable, and if you're a developer or if you're a CTO, right, or chief information officer, you're also knowledgeable, you're following the space, you may say, why am I paying for the cutting edge or the bleeding edge Anthropic model or OpenAI model when I know maybe, if I believe this theory, that DeepSeek or Moonshot is going to distill this model, and in 2 months it's going to come out and it's going to be cheaper. Why not just wait? Right. But again, what does it mean for the revenue and for the investment possibility in then OpenAI and Anthropic? It's just terrible for them, right? Because you have the same thing where like people are like, well, I know the other one's coming soon and I don't need it because I don't need bleeding edge. And it's, by the time it's not bleeding edge, I'll just be able to go and use K3 or K4 or whatever it is.
Yes. But we still need Anthropic and OpenAI to make money to be able to keep building the next model so then everybody can distill it, right?
But here's the thing. Once you get to the point where you have their best model today, then you can start hiring people to build a better model. And this is exactly what happened with Japan licensing their technology for their automobiles to Hyundai and to the Korean makers, because they're like, oh, that'll catch us. But once you give them the tech, then they're like, hey, now we understand how this works. Then they do hire people to actually do the research at a much lower level, cost-wise, so they can then outperform you. So the whole thing is like really tricky, actually, regardless of how it's happening.
Exactly. I think right now we are in a really weird moment for AI. Because of all of these things happening at the same time, and actually maybe what you just described here, like tend up some sort of a reset where Kimi and DeepSeek and all of these guys can actually then keep going by themselves, and Anthropic and OpenAI slowing down drastically because they need to be profitable and making money at some point. They can't keep investing and having the capex on their side that actually help everyone. This may happen really soon, actually. Like if they don't IPO, that may happen in September, right? Like if that, like maybe right now they are releasing everything they have because the winter is coming. Like the next phase of Anthropic and OpenAI is basically getting to a point where they control much better their investment into the models and they release way less fast and they let everyone kind of build on their own moving forward.
But also remember the other thing that we said, Martin, and we've been saying this for a couple of months as well, right, is that if their revenue is falling,
Mhm.
or it's simply even not just increasing at the same pace that it was before, and and if the models, the open weight models in China are catching up, and if Grok is catching up, right, their ability then to raise capital is going to dry up, which means their
Mhm.
IPO is not going to happen, which means they don't have enough money to invest in the next level of research and the next
Yes.
modeling. And now instead of having a virtuous circle, now you have a vicious cycle.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now it's a real problem for all of these companies,
For
all of them.
everybody, right? For
Yeah.
everybody. So if the only guys who are going to be okay are the cloud provider, because they just install Kimi Jeffrey and then they say, you know what, guys, that's good enough for me and my clients, right?
Yeah.
And then I just keep going and figure your things out. But it's possible that we enter in some sort of a winter where we have a lot of models right now and then it slow down drastically until like after the non-IPO of OpenAI and Anthropic. Like if they don't IPO, they won't be able once again to get the money to keep growing as fast as they do right now.
Yep.
And so if everyone growth depends on them because they distill the research and the intelligence that they actually create, then if they slow down, everybody slow down until Anthropic and OpenAI find a way to manage their expenses much better. Once again, we don't know how far they are from that. Are they super far? Are they really really far, or are they just a little bit far? Right? Like we don't know how
No.
far they are from that, and that may be the moment, as you say, like good example where everybody actually start building on their own, right? Like Kimi, DeepSeek, and all of that say, okay, now we are going to hire like to actually build upon what we have without distilling anymore because we can't rely on you forever, basically.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and that's maybe soon actually. That may be really, really soon. So maybe that was the last push for the IPO. That's why we got Fable and all of that. Last attempt, which is going to be super hard. But yeah, I think it's possible that Q4 and then early 2027 is going to be like a pretty much a winter for AI. Let's see how it goes.
Well, can we be more specific
Mhm.
for Frontier Lab AI,
Yeah, for Frontier Labs app. Yeah, yep,
right? Because can we talk a little bit about Elorian before we
yes.
sign off?
Let's do it.
So let's talk about Elorian raises $55 million for visual AI. And again, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have these two stories is because they're not even on the flip sides of the same coin. They're on different coins. And this gets back to like more rational investment, right? And again, it's going to sound a little bit irrational, but like a company raised $55 million in seed funding at a $300 million post-money valuation. Doesn't that sound like a normal conversation? You know what I mean? The money's all in millions. It's $55 million. There are probably a bunch of different investors that each put in like somewhere between $7 and $12 million dollars a piece. Sure,
Yep.
it's pre-seed, but plenty of companies have raised money. Like they love doing this, right? Before releasing a public product or generating any revenue. This is going to be the chatter around this company.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yep.
people love saying that there was no product, there was no revenue. This always happens, right? So look, can we just like
Mhm.
discount that as even being important?
Mhm.
Um, the important thing here is that it's being led by a guy who used to work at Google DeepMind and Google Brain. And he had leadership responsibilities in relation to Gemini's training, and the whole team has experience. They're researchers that have experience in training and multimodal systems and computer vision and all this stuff. So it's like a bunch of yahoos that are just trying to like build something that tricked people into giving them $55 million. But these numbers are much more reasonable. So again, getting back to your commentary about this winter, I think the winter is going to be as people start to figure out again where the value in the value chain is going to accrue, and it's not going to be only to the frontier lab models. And
Mhm.
they're saying there's tons of other ways we can look at this. One of the things the thing that Elorian is trying to do is it says when it comes to image recognition, like have you done any work on this at all, right? Like the Elorian thing, Martin, and again for the audience here is that what they're saying is that the existing LLMs, and it's in the name, like it's so mucked up, right? Because it's a large language model. And the point that they're making, and you and I have said this 100 times, if we said it if we said it once, and that is that this is like not the end game for
Mhm.
AI models. And what they're saying is they're language led, but like there are tons of places in our life and in our existence and our businesses that aren't language led, right? So what they do is they'll convert visual information. This gets back to the parameters we were talking about before, right? They'll take an image or something and they'll convert it into language, into some sort of text like representation of it before they do any reasoning around it. But if you think about how your brain works, right? Like if you look at, like I'm looking at the lights in my room,
Mhm.
I can guess literally just by looking at them for a moment, like how far away they are from each other.
Okay.
I don't need to do the math because I
Mhm.
know what a meter is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I know it because I walk it, I've measured it, and stuff like that. But I don't need to turn it into language first, then do some analysis on it, apply some tokens to it. I just look and go,
Mhm.
probably, yeah, 120 centimeters. Do you know what I mean? Like I can
Mhm.
figure it out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the point that they're making is they want their models to do their reasoning just based on the visuals, right? So again, if you think about a world model, where it's literally like mapping what the world looks like. The distance between buildings matters, and also the volume of a building matters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you shouldn't have to turn that into language first to then apply parameters to it and then turn it back into measurement to guess what
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
measurement is. You should just know by the visual aspect of it what it is, and this is what they're trying to do. So they're not just trying to do image recognition. They're trying to build a visual structure for engineering, for architecture and for stuff like that, where that's going to work way better than an LLM is their
Okay.
contention. So, but again, this is another like really differentiated way to use artificial intelligence because now that we know that LLMs work, and now that we know how the tokens work, and now that we know how the chips work, and all this other stuff, we can say, how else can we apply this, and how can we apply it differently?
Yep.
And that's the reason why everyone's talking about Elorian is because they're not just taking money and doing what everybody else is doing. They have, here's our idea. And people are like, that's a great idea. Here's some money to go build that. And they have confidence that these guys and gals can go build it because they've done other things that are related to it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So that's another example of some people building something different,
That's
right?
my
Like
point though, right?
it
So
is.
so you were right. And you were 100% right saying that the winter's going to come for these frontier lab companies because people are like, okay, 5.6, 6.0, 4.8, Fable 5,
Mhm.
who cares?
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
this visual now AI stuff, I'm gonna go over there
Exactly.
because that's actually super interesting to me
Like
and different.
how much more excited do you think an architect is if you can show them a different use case, right? Like we are going to go back to November 2022 when we first experienced AI through chat GPT. It was like, whoa, it's like such an impressive experience, right? Like we could do something
Yeah,
new. It was interesting. We could do all of these new use cases. I feel like we are just before that right now, right? Like we are just before they, like, because none of these solutions is yet accessible, right? But they are being built. There are a lot of people right now who are building a lot of different ways to use AI, right? Like what
yeah,
they
yeah.
always talk about, AI V2, right? Like we are
Right, right.
right now in AI V1 still, but AI V2 is getting organized and is getting built. And this is another example, right? Like that just adds up to the long list of people who are doing something different. Apple doing AI on device, AMD and Nvidia launching computers on which we can install the models directly. The hyperscalers who are launching their FD programs with the Bedrock type of solution that just include all the models so they can be super neutral when they advise you to implement AI into your company. Like all of this is different, right? Like all of this is new. It's being built right now, and it's just like the couple of examples that I can remember right now. Like all what Thinking Machine Labs is doing as well. That's another way to use AI. And now we have them who are also doing something different, right? Like now there's like so many more things being built that are, once again, different than the use case that we have right now, which is super, super, super interesting, right? Like, I think this is really cool. That's really exciting. It will create more opportunities. Maybe not everything will fit everywhere, right? Like right now, we pretty much have one way to use AI through chat,
Right.
and then that's doing everything. So maybe this is going to be good for some use cases. Maybe what Thinking Machine Labs is doing is going to be great for some other use cases. But once again, like, the competition is going to increase, is going to be much stronger very, very, very soon. And yeah, and this is getting organized right now. So no idea how we're gonna use AI in 2 years, even 6 months, no idea at all. But there are lots of smart people who have a lot of money who are building different things.
So can I ask you a question?
Tell me.
So in February 2026, you could have used Opus 4.6.
Yes.
And you were building things.
Mhm.
You were writing code using Opus 4.6.
Yes.
In April of 2026, they released Opus 4.7.
Which was a fix to the
Yeah,
nerf
which is a fix.
version
I
of
remember because I
4.6.
remember you talking about it clearly. You're like, it's
Exactly.
not really much, but they glitched some stuff up in 4.6. Let's make it better. But then
Yeah.
4.8 came out
Yeah.
in May. So
Mhm.
between February, April, May, and then in June, they released Fable 5 and Mythos.
Yeah.
How much better or how much easier has your code writing become between February and today?
This is the perfect question.
But
Zero.
not at
None.
all. And
Zero.
that's my
Nothing has
point here
changed.
is
Nothing
that
has
like
changed.
nothing has really changed.
Nothing. There is nothing that I couldn't do 6 months, 5 months ago that I can do right now.
Right.
Nothing.
But you
Nothing.
weren't clamoring for like, oh, I need this one thing to make everything better. You were
I've
just
never
like,
said that.
I'll
Yeah.
use it because it's part of my subscription, but I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, this is why Opus 4.6 was such a game changer, right? Like, because I could do everything. I've never been stopped, right? Like, in my
Right.
build up, I was not like, Michael, we really want to build this thing for the business.
I
We need
can't.
this. It's super good, but I can't. We need to buy something else. We need to do something. I've never said that. But I've always said, okay, just give me a couple of hours, and then it's done, basically, right? Like that has been our journey, and so that's why I always talk about this user story, like why the market needs all of this, right? Like, why do we need all of these new models after Opus 4.8? I would say because Opus 4.6 was great, then they nerfed it and it became bad, and so then they did Opus 4.7, and I think there were some weird stuff as well there, and so that's why they did 4.8. I think it's like a stable version of 4.6, but after that, I really don't understand why I need the next model doing the same thing. I understand why we would do something different, like open weight, installing the model on my machine, fine tuning the model with my data, maybe using image as well, right? Like, I understand all of these new use cases because it can be better, it can be cheaper, it can be faster, it can be more efficient, and there's a lot of potential, right? Like in all of these new use cases. But when Fable goes out, all I see is that it's twice the cost and it doesn't have much potential because it doesn't fit any problem for me, right?
No. And this is the reason why I think Elorian is so interesting.
Yes.
The reason why I want to talk about it, because it's fundamentally 180 degrees away from what's happening in the frontier model side, where people are going, okay, that's great what's going on over there, but not much is changing, not much is getting better. But here's a different way to look at things in a particular place. And we think if we can solve this problem, which we can, because these are just like, at some level, they're just like engineering and math problems. And again, if you just throw enough compute at it and throw enough intelligence at it, you should be able to fix this stuff, right? And to be fair, they're probably using Fable 5 to write the code that does all of this stuff, which means they can be way more efficient than they could have been a year ago, even if they had the idea a year ago. But the point is that, like, they're taking a visual view of the world or of the universe and saying, how can we create this idea that the model understands at a granular level geometry, that it understands the orientation, like the spatial orientation of the relationship between like where things are and what they are. And even like, think about it. If you want to use this for like mechanical engineering as well, like the way gears interact with each other, an LLM is not going to understand that. but Elorian might. And this is where stuff gets really cool. And if you think about it, their company is worth $300 million. $300 million, Martin. So the upside potential for investors now is like what is 300 million times 10 is 3 billion, times 100 is 300 billion. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the upside is gigantic. So people are going to start to pay more attention to this than they are for something that is already a $1 trillion valuation and doesn't belong there. And that's one of the reasons why this is so interesting. Not just the fact that the valuations are so low, so they're much more reasonable, but they're looking at the world of artificial intelligence in a completely different way that has nothing to do with what the LLMs are doing, because they're much more visual and much less sort of language based.
Yep. And so to add to this story, my God, it's really funny that we talked about that. A couple of days ago, I found this thing. Once again, something that I didn't test. Okay, so I can't tell you if it's amazing or not.
Go ahead.
But it's called the PH pipe. Okay, the promise is cut Fable 5 token usage by rendering text context as images. Basically, the quick summary is that models, even the chat models that we use, may be much more efficient if we talk to them using images. So more efficient both in terms of understanding what we actually mean and also in terms of token usage. And there is this entire open source protocol that basically help you to use images to talk to Claude Opus, to talk to Sonnet, and apparently it's great and it works. So I didn't check that, I didn't try, but this is the same idea where AI may be actually maybe better if we talk to it using image. I will share the link in the chat for those who want to have a look.
Martin, you know that there's a saying that says a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Yes. And it may be true.
Yeah.
It may be true. I mean, for the model themselves. So I didn't go like deeply into it, so I can't tell you once again by experience if it works or not, but I've seen a lot of YouTube videos about it and people explaining like why it's better and that basically it works really nicely, and so that's maybe worth exploring. And that is the same type of idea of this company that raises money to basically do something similar to that. So
yeah,
once again, interesting time in AI, a lot of new solution coming out.
So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this story kind of at the end of today's thing, because I thought that it was just a completely different view on the way these models can and should work. And the fact that they raised some money. And again, I'm a big believer in just like everything to me is just some kind of engineering problem. And we have the compute and the sort of mathematical and the programming skills necessary to solve any problem we want. It's just like, how do we decide which problems we want to solve? And these guys have made a decision that they want to solve these problems visually. I think it's actually brilliant, and I can't wait to see like what it actually ends up being. And because it's new, you don't think they're the only ones that are going to try to do this, right? Which will accelerate its development faster, and then 10 teams in China will try to do this, and by the time we're done at the end of this year, it's probably going to have like there's probably going to be an open weight model in China that does this specifically.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. This is what is super interesting with this phase that we are at right now, is that we see so many different solutions being built and so many people believe in different way of using AI once again. It's very interesting, right? And I feel we are going to make a lot of progress as a civilization, let's say, about how we use AI. I think in the next 6, 12, 24 months, we are going to make a lot of progress because we are right now building so many different things that we are going to get so much more efficient, so much better, so much more use cases. Like film matter also like about all the chips maker, right? Like, I mean, not the chip maker, the chip designer, sorry. There's way more people right now than they were like 10 years ago who are designing chips for inference, for training, and some people believe this thing and some people believe that thing. There's a lot of innovation going on there as well, right? And so there's a lot of things going on right now, and I think it's cool because we are going to make a lot of progress. At the end of the day, what all of this means, I think, for us as users is that we are going to have more use cases. Like AI will be deployed in more things because, for example, if that works, then maybe we are going to have new ideas on how to implement it into different part of our life. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is that the cost is just going to go down,
Of
like
course, it
drastically,
always does.
right? It's going to go down like crazy, and so that's why now I'm much more bullish on AI than I was. I mean, bullish on our usage of AI than I was
Sure.
3 months ago, where I was really worried because I was like, if we are still dependent on Anthropic, and they just keep making the price higher and higher
That's not going
and
to happen.
higher, what does it mean for us, and unfortunately that didn't last long. There has been a lot of people who have been building a lot of things to make it efficient for companies all around the world. So yeah, no, so I think it's going to be a very interesting time in the next couple of years. I really want to see, Michael. I think the one big elephant in the room here is we need to see how Apple is going to deploy AI on device. This
Yeah.
is going to be a big thing, I think. And if
Can I
Microsoft does
can I
the
tell
same
you
thing,
where Apple? Can I tell you where intelligence has been deployed on device that we completely take for granted?
okay, tell me.
Us.
Okay.
I mean, it's on device, right?
You
Like I
mean
could
the
literally remove
human
all
body, right?
connectivity. Say
Yeah.
again?
You mean the human body, right? Like
Exactly.
us.
Yeah, the human
Okay.
body. In other words, your brain is not connected by definition to anything else except like the rest of your body. And it seems to do a really good job of processing stuff on device.
Yes, it's true.
No, but
Yeah,
you
no, it's
understand
true.
the
It's
point.
a
The
super
point is that
example. Yeah.
like, so
Mhm.
building on device stuff should be something that we should be able to nail down. Again, I said this earlier. It's just an engineering and math problem. We just need to be able to figure out a way to figure that out. And I'm sure that humans will do that because they're already living in an environment where there's no connectivity between what's happening in your brain and my brain that we know how to use per se. And yet you and I can communicate with each other. And if we're alone in a room, we can still have thoughts that are intelligible and intelligent. And that's on device intelligence.
Good thoughts. Good thought. Interesting thoughts. But yeah, let's see. Like, I really wonder, like, Michael, what is your most exciting ideas? Like, of all the new things that are being built right now, what do you find the most interesting? And same question for the chat. What do you guys think is the most exciting idea for you among all the new things that we see right now being built?
So for me, Martin, I was thinking about this actually before you asked this question. This is what it must have felt like at some level when airplanes or flying was invented. Because it must have seemed like it was moving really fast. At some point, there were just like two guys in Kentucky who were just like, I think we can probably build a machine that flies. And everyone's like, you guys are insane. And once they did it, then hundreds and hundreds of other people could like decided they knew how to do it. And then you have now Boeing and Airbus, and you have supersonic jets, and you have stealth airplanes and all this other stuff. Like it's just amazing what happens once you prove that something can be done. So the most exciting thing to me is that I don't know where it's going, but I love
Totally.
living in the time where it's actually happening. And I love the fact that you and I have spent so much time thinking about watching this, paying attention to it, learning about it, talking about it, educating people about it to the extent that we know anything about it. And I don't know what's coming next. But every time I see a new idea, I'm like, that could be a good idea.
But just you
So
don't
it's
have
the
like
excitement. It's the excitement that kills me. Sorry, go ahead.
you don't have like one favorite idea that you can't wait to try.
How could I possibly know? In other words, we don't the AI that you and I use today is no different than what we would have used a year and a half ago. It's a little bit better. But when I see this visual stuff, I think like that's kind of the way the world works. Right. So what's exciting to me is the here's the real thought that I had. Right. And I let that thought manifest itself in the idea of like we're already doing on device intelligence in the human body. But what's happening to me, what it appears to me, Martin, is happening, and I think Alvin Wong Grayland will kind of bear this out as well, is it slowly but surely we are using technology to rebuild piece by piece what happens in a sentient being. Notice I didn't say a human being because it could be animals or whatever. That bit by bit, we're rebuilding all that stuff, whether it's prosthetics or skin or vision or hearing or math or AGI, we're bit by bit rebuilding all of the things that sentient beings have. That to me is fascinating because I don't know where that's going, but I do think it's going to happen. That's where stuff gets really interesting for me.
Or just
Does
take
that
like
make sense?
a much broader point of view, right? Like including all science, all technology across different industries, different part of the world as well. And you're right, like if we put everything together, combined, it looks like there is a lot of new things happening everywhere. Yeah. And going into that
Everywhere.
direction, you're right, like going to that direction to rebuilding beings. That's an interesting. And actually that's pretty much linked to what Jan said. Like he said, for me, it feels like we are close to having AI think and robots works for us. And then he said, but the question is what society makes out of it. I think like this is really the number one question of people. Actually, I would say that's the second most asked question about AI. The first one is AI going to take my job? And the second one is what is going to happen when AI is everywhere, or like what type of society is it going to be? The type of matrix light type of thing.
So so
A lot of
so
people have questions about
I
that.
think in the long arc of history,
Mhm.
things will get better for humans. There may be less humans on the planet because less of us are necessary, but I would make the case that that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the second thing is that the humans that are left will live way better lives. Like, and again, I don't want to equate humans with pets, but think about this. 1,000 years ago, dogs were just like roaming around the world. They were wild and feral. And now there's the competition in England every year where like the dogs can kind of do tricks and stuff, and they live this life where like they're always being groomed. They eat for free and they don't have any pain in their lives. And they're actually doctors just set up just to handle animals. So I'm not suggesting we're going to become pets of robots, but what I am suggesting is that our lives could get a lot easier if we do this right. Because they can create all this output. They can create food. They can build domicile for us. They can, what's cheaper today? A neurosurgeon that went to Harvard or a neurosurgeon that you can replicate 1 billion times with a machine? And what's the benefit from a healthcare perspective? Right. So there's going to be a transition period, I think, where things could get really tricky. But over time, I think it's going to make life way better for humans. Because imagine like if you had a medical problem today, even a standard one, you'd have to go to a hospital, get in line, do all this stuff. But what if what if there were literally thousands of machines that could actually do an analysis for you? And because there are so many of them, it was so cheap that like you could literally go be like, I'll be right back, give me an hour. I want to just get like a full body scan and see if I'm sick or not.
Or just
Like
have
you do DEXA.
just something at home, right? Like just like
Whatever. Yeah, but yeah, whatever. You could have home medical care for free.
Yep, no, for sure, for sure. And I think like there has been a lot of example in the course of history where technology has made our lives better at the end of the day, right? Like as you say, there's always a transition period that feels maybe a bit uncomfortable. But when cars arrived, right, and we went from horses to cars, when we had the industrial revolution, when closer to us the internet came along, like all of these things at the end of the day just made us adapt and change, and then we were able to do much more things and live a much more comfortable life. And then we can even go further with the electricity, with running water, with all of these things, right? And as Jan say, horse definitely have a better life now. Yes,
Way
that's
better.
so that's actually another good example, I think, of what happens when something gets completely disrupted, right? Like when we think about horses, like we were using them for doing a lot of stuff, and then cars came along, and then all of a sudden we don't need the horse anymore because the cars can do much better. Like
When
yeah.
cars were invented, the horses got together and they were high-fiving each other.
Exactly. They
You know
said
that,
now
right?
we have no more jobs. We are out, and then
Hey
we can
guys,
do
I'm just
whatever
gonna
we
go
want.
run in the field. How does that sound to you?
So actually, yeah, they were put out of business, right? Like they lost their job like very very fast. But also like the people who were riding the horses, like the horse driver, right, for the different type of job, first of all had to adapt and had to learn how to do their job with the new
They
cars
just
and
became
all of
taxi
these things.
drivers. What are we doing? Yeah.
Yep. Yes. And then after a period of transition, today horses are pretty much something of luxury, right? Like if you have a
I've
horse,
been using the horse as an example
exactly.
in this exact
Yeah,
way for decades.
exactly. So you
Yeah.
have like first it's useful, then it becomes useless. We don't really know what to do with it. Everybody needs to adapt, and like a couple of tens of years after that, now it's luxury. Now it's super expensive, and
So
now
you
it's
know what's going to happen? Here's a prediction of mine.
yeah.
Pigeons, not so much. Yeah,
But like
it's hard.
they do bad things to humans also. So that's why we are not improving their life too much.
But you know the other thing that's going to happen, Martin, if robots take over, is all of us are going to get way better at tennis and golf, which means you should buy a golf club or buy a tennis club because people are going to be signing up for tennis lessons because you're going to have so much time to play.
That would be
I'm not
nice. That
kidding
would be
though.
nice. That would be nice. No, yeah, no, that's. I really wonder, maybe at first, like all the jobs, where it's dangerous, where it's very manual, right? Like working in factories or
Coal
working
mining,
in coal mining or the oil, like the oil, like what do you say, like the oil extraction plants,
yeah,
like something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like
Oil
the
rigs,
ones, oil rigs, the one that are in the middle of the ocean are like
ocean. Yeah,
absolutely
it's
insane,
dangerous.
right?
Yeah, dangerous.
Super dangerous, super insane. Like if we can remove people out of that and find a better way, I think that's good for everybody, right? And
Yeah,
so there's plenty of example like this where, and plus, I actually, even without going to that extreme, there are a lot of jobs where everybody tells us like we need more people,
people.
right? Like
Yeah,
there is a shortage of people in a lot of jobs, right? And so, for example, in Japan, we talked about that maybe a month ago, where
yep.
they are
At
starting
the
to
airport.
use robots in airports because they just need more labor. There is just not enough human to do the job, and so they start to use robots. So maybe that is also like an angle where robot adoption, I would say, can accelerate because first of all, there are some jobs where we don't have enough people, right?
I'm
So
pro robot, man.
I think it's gonna be
I'm
interesting.
100% pro robot.
I mean, in a way, Michael, like if we really want to look at the big picture, we already have a lot of robots. Not in our daily life for you and me, but they are robots that build cars, for example, right? Like
Yeah,
they
for
are,
sure. Like, yeah,
so there are plenty of robots already, right? Like not in the form of like a humanoid robots that we meet and greet and play chess with. That's not existing
Can I
yet.
can I can I make the
Mhm.
case that your oven is a robot?
Yeah, we can even
You don't
make
have
that
to
type of
light a
thing.
fire and like go out and get stones for it. And do you know what I mean? Like your oven's a
Yeah.
robot, your dishwasher's a robot, like all these things are your
Mhm.
car's a robot at some level because you don't have to, it's motorized. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, so that's what it's you who said that like we don't necessarily need robots to be a humanoid form, right? Like it may
No.
not be the most efficient form for every job, right? And
Yep.
so that's what like when you start thinking about it this way, you're right. Yeah, okay, that's true. Like maybe for some different jobs we can have like a different form, and then yes, we can say okay, yes, maybe they actually that's for sure we already have robots in many different situations.
Exactly.
And we will probably have more.
Okay, man. Let's end it there. How does that sound to you?
Yep. All good. I think we had a great show today. Thank you
did.
for participating again. Super interesting.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us on AGTP Daily. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our socials on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. As always, we love the interactivity. Martin mentioned this yesterday. We're going to go to a 2 times a week format. So, Martin, if you want to say anything about that, please do. Otherwise, we'll do what? Mondays and Wednesdays. We're going to start an hour earlier as well. And hopefully, we'll have more guests too. My name is Michael Waits. I'm going to say goodbye for now, but we will see you all next week as well.
We are going to do it, Michael, Monday and Thursday.
Thursday,
Okay, so
excuse me. Thank you.
Yep. Starting next week. I think Jan, you were not here yesterday. But yeah, starting next week, we are going to change from 1 episode a day to 2 episodes a week, one on Monday and one on Thursday, because we want to be able to have a little bit more insight, a little bit more like to gather more information, to have a bit more time to actually gather more information and then talk to you about the most important news. And so yeah, we're gonna do it on Monday and Thursday, starting next week, and we're gonna start it now earlier as well. So right now we are doing 11 a.m. Eastern time. We will do it at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we will also have more guests, more CEOs, more CTOs who are building things in the US to tell us what they build, what they do, what they see in the market, because this is always super interesting to have more point of view and more insight from people doing the thing. So yep, some changes starting next week, and yep, and we once again, like, thank you very much for being here every day and for coming to chat with us. And starting next week, we hope to see you every Monday and every Thursday.
Okay. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend to you as well, and see you on Monday. Bye bye.